Welcome everyone, Shabbat Shalom. Welcome to our Sabbath services for Congregation Beit Tikva, the House of Hope. We would like to thank all of our viewers, not just here in Santa Fe, but all across the country. Our viewership is growing every single Shabbat. And if you are a new viewer, please let us know so we may welcome you and welcome you into our congregation. So we're going to begin with some beautiful music. In our Siddur, we're on page 653. In the middle of 653, we're singing Dodi Li. Dodi Li, Ba'ani lo haroeh, B'shoshanim. Dodi Li, Ba'ani lo haroeh, B'shoshanim. Mizot olam, min hamidbar, mizot olam. Mizot olam, min hamidbar, mizot olam. Dodi li, ba'ani lo haroeh, b'shoshanim. Dodi li, ba'ani lo haroeh, b'shoshanim. Turn the page, please, to 654, in the middle of 654. Another wonderful Sabbath melody, very popular in Israel, and also it's often sung at Jewish weddings. Erev Shoshanim, the evening of the roses, page 654. Erev Shoshanim, Netzen al habustan, Mor besamim ulevona, Leraglech mitan. Lala oreh, Beruach Shoshan noshva, balat zemer shel ahava. Erev shel shoshanim, netzen al habustan, mor besamim ulevona, leraglech mipatan. So let's turn now to the welcoming of Shabbat with the blessing over our Shabbat candles. We're on page 121. 121. And we read together in the middle of the page before we sing the blessing for Hadlakat HaNerot. Page 121. O source of light and truth, creator of the eternal law of goodness, help us to find knowledge by which to live. Lead us to take the words we shall speak into our hearts and our lives. Bless all who enter this sanctuary in need, all who bring the offerings of their hearts. May our worship lead us to acts of kindness, peace, and love. Let's sing together. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. Let's continue with the meditation. We're on 126, page 126. I begin with a prayer of gratitude for all that is holy in my life. God needs no words, no English or Hebrew, no semantics and no services, but I need them. Through prayer, I can sense my inner strength, my inner purpose, my inner joy, my capacity to love. As I reach upward in prayer, I sense these qualities in my Creator. To love God is to love each other, to work to make our lives better. To love God is to love the world God created, and to work to perfect it. To love God is to love dreams of peace and joy that illumine all of us, and to bring that vision to life. So we begin welcoming the Sabbath with the special Psalms, Kabbalat Shabbat Psalms. We're on page 130, and we'll sing the opening verse of Lechu Neranana on 130. Sing joyously to Adonai, raise a shout for our rock and redeemer. Let us come into God's presence with praise. Let us raise a shout for God in song. For Adonai is the great God, the great ruler of all divine beings. In God's hand are the depths of the earth. The peaks of the mountains are God's. God's is the sea, God made it, and the land which God's hands fashioned. Come, let us bow down and kneel, bend the knee before Adonai, our Maker, for Adonai is our God, and we are the people God tends, the flock in God's care. Oh, if you would but heed God's charge this day. Let's read a portion of Psalm 29 before we come to our favorite Lela Dawkins. We're in the middle of page 137. These are words from Psalm 29. The voice of Adonai kindles flames of fire. The voice of Adonai convulses the wilderness. Adonai convulses the wilderness of Kadesh. The voice of Adonai causes hinds to calve and strips the forest bare. While in God's temple all say, Glory. Adonai sat enthroned at the flood. Adonai sits enthroned, sovereign forever. May Adonai grant strength to God's people. May Adonai bestow on God's people well-being. So we lift up our voices. We're joining together for Lela Dawkins, traditional Sabbath melody, written in the late 1500s by the rabbis who lived in Safat, the early Kabbalistic rabbis. We're on 138, verses 1, 2, and then the last verse.
Shabbat
לקראת שבת לחוף ממך, כי מכל הברכה ראש מכתר וסוכה, זו מעשה במשמע תחילה לך Shabbat Kala, Lekadodi Lekrakala, Shabbat Kala. Please rise if you're able. Ori v'shalom ateret bala, am v'simcha u'zola, tochem yuneh am segula. Let's keep singing together. This is Shabbat Shirah, the Sabbath of Song. If you'll turn to 142, we'll continue with Shalom Aleichem. Wendy and Alma are going to offer us a duet, and we shall all sing with them. Shalom Aleichem. If you're comfortable and able to continue standing, please do so. If not, relax, sit back, enjoy. We turn now to the blessings that lead up to the Shema Yisrael, and we begin with the Chatzi Kaddish. We're on 144. 144, we'll all sing together the Chatzi Kaddish. Yitkada v'yitkada shamei Rabbi Yamadi Brakirute Yamlich Malchute V'chayechon U'yomechon U'kayedechon Beit Yisrael Ba'agala Ba'agala U'bizman Karim Imaru Amen Yeshmei Rabba Mevora Yiparak v'yishtabak, Yipar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, V'yitagah, v'yitaleh, v'yitala, Shemei Kedusha v'richu, Lela next page on 146. Baruchu et Adonai Amorach, Baruch Adonai Amorach, Le'olam Va'ed. Let's read the first blessing together in the middle of 148 in the English. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe, who speaks the evening into being, skillfully opens the gates, thoughtfully alters the time and changes the seasons, and arranges the stars in their heavenly courses according to plan. You are creator of day and night, rolling light away from darkness and darkness from light,
transforming day to night,
and distinguishing one from the other. Adonai Tsebaot is your name. Ever-living God, may you reign continually over us into eternity. Blessed are you, Adonai, who brings on the evening. Baruch atah Adonai, Hamariv Haravim. The second blessing in the middle of page 150. Everlasting love you offered your people Israel by teaching us Torah and mitzvot, laws and precepts. Therefore, Adonai our God, when we lie down and when we rise up, we will meditate on your laws and your commandments. We will rejoice in your Torah forever. Day and night we will reflect on them, for they are our life, and doing them lengthens our days. Never remove your love from us. Praise to you, Adonai, who loves your people Israel. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael. We turn the page and we lift up our voices together for the Shema Yisrael. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kivod, Malchuto, Leolam Va'ed. Please be seated. So we continue with the verses from Deuteronomy chapter 6, as you know, affectionately known as the V'ahavta. We're on page 154, first in Hebrew and then in English. V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavecha v'chol nafshecha v'chol meodecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'ela asher anochi mitzavcha hayom al levavecha v'shinatam levanecha v'dibarta bam v'shivtecha b'veitecha v'lechtecha v'aderech v'shachbecha v'kumecha Ukshartam leot al yadecha, v'hayu letotafot bein einecha. Uchtabtam al mezuzot beitecha, uvisharecha. Leman tizkaru v'asitem et kol mitzvotai, v'yitem kedoshim lelohechem. Ani Adonai Elohechem, asher hotzeti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim, liot lachem lelohim. You shall love Adonai your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. Take to heart these instructions with which I charge you this day. Impress them upon your children. Recite them when you stay at home and when you are away, when you lie down and when you get up. Bind them as a sign on your hand. Let them serve as a symbol on your forehead. Inscribe them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates. Thus you shall remember to observe all my commandments and to be holy to your God. I am Adonai your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt to be your God. I am Adonai your God. Adonai Elohechem Emet. Let's turn to the words from Exodus 15. This is part of the Song of the Sea. Mi chamocha. We're on page 158. Singing together, Mi chamocha. Mi chamocha kamocha ne'elam hakodesh. No tehilot oseh pele, no tehilot oseh pele. We'll turn the page. We come to the beautiful blessing called Hashkivenu, that we may lie down in peace on this Sabbath evening. May God be our guardian, protecting us from enemies, from illness, from plague, from all the sorrow of this world. Wendy and Alma are going to offer us a duet for the Hashkivenu. We're on page 162, and we're seeing words again from the book of Exodus, Vishamru, that we may guard and observe and keep the Sabbath for all time. Top of page 162. Vishameru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat l'dorotam brit olam. Eini umei b'nei Yisrael oti le'olam. Eini umei b'nei Yisrael oti le'olam. We continue now with the 7 blessings of the Sabbath service, the Tefillah. We're on 164, and if you're able, stand up and join us as we sing together. We always begin with a verse from Psalm 51, and we'll continue with the first 2 blessings beginning on page 166. Adonai sefata tifta ufia kiteilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your 168. Atadi Boel Adonai, Mechaye HaKol Adam Zoshia, Mechakel Chaim Bechesed, Mechaye HaKol Berachamim Rabim, Shomek Noflim, Erofet Holim, Umatir Asurim, Umkayem Emunato, Lishei Afar, Nikamocha Yalurot, Ulino Melach, Melech Memi, Umkayem, Umasbiach Yeshua, Emanata, Achayot HaKol, Baruch Atah Adonai, Mechayeh HaKol. Let's read together in English. We're on page 171. The third blessing. Days pass and the years vanish, and we walk sightless among miracles. God, fill our eyes with seeing and our minds with knowing. Let there be moments when your presence, like lightning, illumines the darkness in which we walk. Help us to see wherever we gaze that the bush burns unconsumed, and we, clay touched by God, will reach out for holiness and exclaim in wonder, how filled with awe is this place, and we did not know it. Blessed is the Eternal One, the Holy God. Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh. Let's all be seated, please. We continue with the Ritzeh, this beautiful blessing which asks us to think about the return of our people ultimately to the land of Israel and the presence of the Shekhinah in our midst, the indwelling presence of God. We're reading together middle of 175. You are with us in our prayer, our love, and our doubt, in our longing to feel your presence and do your will. You are the still, clear voice within us. Therefore, O God, when doubt troubles us, when anxiety makes us tremble, when pain clouds the mind, we will look inward for the answer to our prayers. There may we find you, and there find courage, insight, and endurance. And let our worship bring us closer to one another, that all Israel and all who seek you may find new strength for your service. Baruch atah Adonai, shotcha levadcha b'yirah na'avot. Let's turn the page. We come to the blessing of thanksgiving. We'll read from page 177. God of goodness, we give thanks for the gift of life, wonder beyond words, for the awareness of soul, our light within, for the world around us so filled with beauty, for the richness of the earth, which day by day sustains us. For all these and more we offer thanks. Baruch atah Adonai, hatov shimcha, u'lecha na'eh lehodot. So our seventh blessing, as you all know, is Shalom Rav, the blessing of peace, peace for our people, for humanity, and inner peace as well, not just physical, but spiritual peace. We're on 178. Let's join Jolene, Alma, and Wendy. Shalom Rav.
Shalom Rav, Israel Amka, Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav, Israel Amka, Tasim Leolam. Ki ata melech Adon, Shalom, Shalom Raha Israel Omcha Taslim Leolam Taslim Leolam Taslim Leolam.
Let's take a few minutes for our own personal prayers, our meditations.
May the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable to you, be acceptable to you. Lord, my rock and my redeemer. Lord, my rock and redeemer.
This Shabbat, as it is Shabbat Shirah, a very special, beautiful Sabbath, the Sabbath of song, the Sabbath of visions of the future for the Jewish people as Moses, Miriam, and Aaron crossed the sea. We're going to read from Torah. We have a minyan today in our sanctuary. Let's turn to the Torah service on page 362. Page 362, I'd like to ask Dirk if you'll come up and carry the Torah for us, please. Please rise. En kamocha v'Elohim Adonai, en gemasecha, malchutecha malchut kol olamim, umemshaltecha b'chol dor v'ador. Adonai malach, Adonai malach, Adonai imloch, le'olam va'ed. Adonai oz le'amoitem, Adonai yevarech et amo b'shalom. Avarachamim etiva b'tzonka et Zion. Tivnei komot Yerushalayim. Tivnei komot Yerushalayim. Kivecha le'arbatachnu, melech elam v'nitzach, Adonai. We're in the middle of 365.
In this scroll is the secret of our people's life from Sinai until now. Its teaching is love and justice, goodness and hope. Freedom is its gift to all who treasure it.
Let's turn the page 366. Singing together, Baruch Shenatan Torah, Torah. Baruch Shenatan Torah, Torah. Ve'amo Yisrael, Be'kedushato. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo. Lecha Adonai Hagedula, Yarivura, Yatiferet, Yanetzach, Yaod. Kikol hashamayim u'haaretz, Kikol hashamayim u'haaretz. Adonai Amalekah, Yamina Hatzeh, Levov, Levov. Ashlosha Devarim, Ashlosha Devarim, Ashlosha Devarim, Haolam, Haolam, Amen. Ashlosha Devarim, Ashlosha Devarim, Ashlosha Devarim, Haolam, Haolam, Amen. Let's all be seated, please. Shabbat Shirah. Think about it. Music is the universal language of all humankind. We give this special name to the Sabbath because we're reading or chanting the special Torah chapter 15 of Exodus, which is known as the Song of the Sea. And a little bit later, after we read a portion of it in Hebrew and Dirk lifts up the scroll, you'll see that it is written in a special orthography. It is the first significant poem that you'll find in the Torah, and so it's the scribe did not write it in typical narrative fashion. There are two spaces in the first line and then one center space, big space in the second line, and it goes back and forth, 2 and 1 and 2 and 1. So it's a very, very beautiful script, and every single Torah scroll in the world looks like this for Shabbat Shirah. This is the exuberant, the triumphant song of thanksgiving that Moses and Miriam chanted. And by the way, it's not just Moses who's doing the singing, because if you look at the very end of chapter 15, you'll find another song, another special poem. It's only about 3 verses long, but that's the poem of Miriam. She is singing and dancing with the women after they've crossed through the sea. That's known as Miriam's song, and probably, I would guess, once upon a time it was a much longer text. But when the Torah was finally edited some 2,600 years ago, they left out some of the verses from Miriam's poetry. To tell you the truth, every Sabbath should be a Sabbath of song, if you think about it. How did we start our service this evening? We began with Psalm 95, Lechu Neranana, right? Come, let us sing to the Lord. Let us acclaim the rock of our help. Let us draw near to God with songs of thankfulness. Long before Jews read prayers, we always chanted prayers. There was no such thing as choral or antiphonal reading of prayers. There were in fact, Levitical priests who chanted all the prayers for the congregation in ancient Jerusalem. Remember also that at the end of our service, when we do the Kiddush, we always sing that prayer. And if you were completing your Sabbath dinner, let's say your luncheon or your late afternoon dinner, you would chant, Jews chant the Birkat HaMazon. Again, a marvelous piece of music. Going back to the beginning of our service, after we did Lechuna Ranana and Lecha Dodi, what did we sing? Shalom Aleichem, welcome to all of us, that we may enjoy the Sabbath, bring in the ministering, the celestial angels to watch over us on this beautiful day. Song and music, if you think about it, permeate everything that's part of Jewish life. We cannot find any particular prayer in the prayer book that does not have a melody accompanying it. For example, the Kaddish. You all know the Kaddish by heart, right? Hopefully. The fact is there are many different arrangements or musical arrangements for the Kaddish. There's a Kaddish melody for the weekday, there's a Kaddish melody for the Sabbath. On Rosh Hashanah Eve, there's a special melody for the Kaddish. And there's even a different Kaddish melody when we come to the end of Yom Kippur, when we come to the Ne'ilah service, the final service. Again, the Kaddish has a different arrangement. Long before you and I were singing Jewish tunes, the Levites, as I said, were singing the music for us, probably all the way back in the time of King David, which is close to 3,000 years ago. The Levites not only sang, but they played musical instruments. There's something like 3 or 4 dozen musical instruments that were known in the ancient world. And the rabbis in the Talmudic times speak of various wind instruments, a primitive kind of a piano, as well as cymbals, the harp, and many other woodwind or reed instruments. Think of what we do, just for a moment as I'm giving you a panorama about Jewish music. Think about the high holidays and one of our most famous musical pieces, namely the Kol Nidre. Okay? It is always read, it is always sung, right? You've never heard it, well, we sometimes read it out loud, but the cantor traditionally has to chant it 3 times. Why? Because we're trying to draw in all the lost straggler Jewish souls out there on the street and bring everybody into the synagogue to hear the words of Kol Nidre. That melody, by the way, that we sing wasn't necessarily known in the 10th century of the Common Era. The melody that you and I are so familiar with is an Ashkenazi melody that developed in the Middle Ages. In fact, some people in the Jewish world were so upset about the Kol Nidre that for about 200-300 years, nobody sang it at all. Because some in the Jewish world, especially in the Middle Eastern Sephardic world, thought that by singing the Kol Nidre, what we were telling the Gentile community was, we're not responsible for mistakes or business failures or promises that we have made in the course of the coming year. And so for a long time, rabbis said, let's desist from the Kol Nidre. It was such a popular melody that in France and Germany, the rabbis brought it back by the time we get to the 13th century. We don't have time this Shabbat to talk about all the great pieces of music in Jewish life. Just remember that our Jewish music is a reflection of our sacred values. It's a reflection of our heart, of our hope for a better future. It's even a reflection of what we hope for in the Messianic time. Purify our hearts that we may serve you in truth. That's what we read in our prayer book. How do we purify our hearts? We sing a little bit more. I hope that in the months ahead, as we all come back into the synagogue and are able to physically join together and daven and pray and laugh together as a community, again, we'll be doing more and more music, not only instrumental, but choral music as well as solo music when our cantor is able to join us one more time. The man who gave us the first modern Hebrew dictionary once said, "A people that lives speaks." And I would paraphrase Eliezer ben Yehuda's words and say, "A people that lives sings, and a people that sings shall live." So let's all celebrate this beautiful Sabbath of song. Dirk and Jean, if you'll come on up and recite the Aliya for us tonight, that would be great. What's interesting is the first important word of this song is shir, to sing, but shir also means, as a noun, it means to have a vision of the future, to look into the future. We'll chant together. Baruch et Adonai Hamorah, Baruch Adonai Hamorah Le'olam Ha'ed, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et torato, Baruch atah Adonai notei haTorah. Amen. אז ישיר משה ובני ישראל את השירה הזאת לאדוני, ויאמרו לאמור, השירה לאדוני כי גאו גאה, סוס ורחבו רמה בים, עזי וזמרה יעל ויהי לי לישוע, זה לי וענווהו, אלוהי אבי וארוממנו. אדוני איש מלחמה, אדוני שמו, מרכבות פרעה וחילו ירה בים, ומבחר שלישה טובו וים סוף. תעמוד יחזימו ירדו במצילות כמו אבן. ימינך אדוני נהדרי בכוח, ימינך אדוני תרעוץ אויב. וברוב גאונך תהרוס אפיך, נערמו מים. ניצבו כמו נד נוזלים. קפאו תהומות בלב ים, אמר נפשי, אריק, חרבי, תורישמו ידי, נשפת אדירים, מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש, נוראתי לוט עושה פלא. So you all recognize those verses because we sing them, of course, every Friday night and Shabbat morning.
Baruch atah Adonai
Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, v'chayei olam natan tochenu, Baruch atah Adonai notei haTorah. Amen. So while we're all standing here, I would like Dirk to lift up the Torah for us, and you'll see the beautiful scribal calligraphy that is this chapter. V'zod haTorah she'asa Moshe B'nei Yisrael b'Adonai b'yad Moshe. Let's all be seated for just a moment. Every Shabbat we think of our loved ones, our family, congregants around the world, and our most beloved here in Santa Fe. And we want to offer a blessing of healing, of strengthening of heart, of mind, and of body. So on this Shabbat, first of all, I want to remember our dear cantor Ephraim Herrera, who's making good progress, and also congregants Doreen Herdig, Lynn Kelly, Flo Vinnick, Arlene Vinnick, and also a dear friend of Elisheva Herrera's, who is in need of strengthening and healing. Are there any other people that we want to mention for this special blessing of healing today? Sandy? Corinne Adimo, thank you. And Rakefet.
I'd like to reach out to Bonnie Cantor.
Thank you. Bonnie Cantor. Okay, we're on page 371 in our prayer books. We're going to sing Mishaberach Avotenu, may the source of strength who bless the ones before us. Middle of 371. Special thank you to Jolene and Alma and Wendy for this gorgeous music on this Sabbath of Song, and also to Lela for recording our service and bringing it to YouTube for us. And thank you to members of our Board of Trustees for being here today so we could have a minyan and read from the Shirat Hayam. By the way, there's a special melody for chanting that chapter. I'm not a cantor, so I don't know the nusach, but hopefully next year we will chant the Shirat Hayam as well. Any other important announcements for this coming week? Tomorrow morning we have Torah study, 9:30. Just go to your Zoom. You'll find it on your computer. For all those who are new and just watching us for the first time, you can find more about our congregation at beitikvasantafe.org. That's our website, beitikvasantafe.org. And we welcome you to join us and let us know who you are. We have many, many visitors. Last week we had almost 50 viewers enjoying our Sabbath service. So if you're watching us, send us an email and let us know what's happening. Okay, let's go to our closing prayers. We're on page 586. And we all rise to chant the Aleinu in the middle of 586. First, before we do the Aleinu, of course it's important to put the Torah scroll back in the ark. So we're singing together on 374. Sorry about that. 374. We'll sing together Hodo al Eretz. The top of the page. Hodo al Eretz v'shamayim v'yarem ke'erem li'amo tila lechol chasidav libnei Yisrael am kerovo. Hallelujah. Standing and sing together the Aleinu, and you'll find in the middle of 586. Aleinu l'shavel Adon hakol, l'adeitu l'alifzer reshit, shelo asanu v'goyi aratzo, v'lo samanu, v'rishu kol adama. A short meditation before we come to the Kaddish prayer. Our thoughts turn at this time to those who have departed from our earth, our own loved ones, and those whom our friends and neighbors have lost, and the martyrs of our people whose graves are unmarked. Those of every race and nation whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. As we remember them now, let us lift up our voices, let us meditate upon their love and their life. Let us always remember their soul. On this, the Yahrzeit Memorial with love and devotion, we recall Al Chapman, dear friend and longtime member of our congregation. We remember Betty Glucken, sister-in-law of Eleanor Brenner. And we also remember Elizabeth Vernick, mother-in-law of Joan Vernick. Are there any other names for this, for the Yahrzeits, for the Shabbat? Please turn with me to page 598 and we will read together the Kaddish prayer. Page 598. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabba, v'yamad yibrach chirutei, v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon v'yomechon, v'chayedecho Beit Yisrael, b'agala b'zman kariv imru amen. Yehei shemei Rabba mevorach, l'amo mei hamaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, Yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal, shmei b'kudsha b'richu, Lela min kol birchata b'shirata, tushbechata v'nechamata, Alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'moav, u'yaseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, amen. May the Holy One who brings harmony from high bring us peace, lift up the state of Israel, all Jewish people and our nation, and we shall say together, Amen.
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 So our final blessing, then our final song, as you know, is the Kiddush. Page 123, page 123 in the prayer book. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kedishanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzah banu, v'shabbat kasho v'halo ratzon yimshilanu, zikav l'maaseh v'reshit, kiruyot v'hilah l'mikra'e kodesh, zecher l'tziras Mitzrayim. Shabbat Shalom. A good Sabbath to everyone.
Thank you. Shabbat Shalom, Rabbi.
Shabbat Shalom.